Thanks, Les Corla. Minister, thanks for coming in this morning to answer questions. My question is in regards to the possibility for opening schools as recreation facilities, specifically for community purposes, and if the Minister will make a statement on the matter. It's question number 10. Thank you.
Minister.
Thanks very much, Deputy. The policy of the Department of Education is to support the use of school premises and facilities for community and recreational purposes where possible. In October 2017, following consultation with the relevant school authorities, the Department published guidelines on the use of school buildings outside of school hours. These guidelines can be viewed on the Department's website also, just for general information. The purpose of the guidelines is to provide guidance for schools in relation to the use of school buildings outside of school hours, and for those schools who are considering putting such arrangements in place. Any decision to make school facilities available lies with the relevant trustees, property owners, having regard to the requirements of the school, the staff and students, and an adjudication is made at that level. Schools are often the centre of sustainable communities, and I'm very aware of that, and there can be mutual benefits in building links with the local community. Indeed, many schools recognise this, and they play an important role in their wider communities, and many schools do make their facilities available outside of school hours for a variety of different uses and at a variety of different times throughout the year. During the period of the COVID-19 pandemic, a school in considering applications should carry out a risk assessment to ensure that any organisation intending to use the school's facilities can guarantee the school that all public health requirements will be adhered to. And that's something that we're obviously, Deputy, as you would appreciate, particularly conscious of as we journey through COVID-19. But I want to acknowledge that in the vast majority of schools there is a very strong alignment between local communities and local schools, and indeed I would acknowledge that for many school communities the school itself is at the heart and very centre of many community activities as they operate within a local community, and that's something that I would welcome. I think it's very important that as schools within communities we continue to build and to grow and to nurture links.
Thank you, Minister. And Minister, I would have read the document, the guidance on the use of school buildings outside of school hours that you referred to. I suppose that document kind of considers the issues surrounding insurance, risk assessments, health and safety, security, those types of situations. What I'm talking about here is opening schools for full community use. And I suppose nothing has the potential to bring people together more effectively than our schools. And we know that communities benefit from strong schools and students benefit from strong communities. Schools do not simply provide a place to educate our children, they anchor students in their communities, provide additional amenities to communities and share spaces for recreational activities. Also, communities where schools are appropriately sited and whose accessibility is enhanced can support good health, with children and users able to walk or cycle to school and encourage greater physical activity. Minister, I, like you, have spent a considerable period of my life in a classroom and in a school environment. I've worked in schools that have been lucky enough to have brand new state-of-the-art facilities on greenfield sites, and also in schools where they do their best within the confines of their four walls. So I think that we need a greater opening up for community.
Thanks very much, Deputy, and I do absolutely appreciate the sincerity with which you put forward your views, and again I want to confirm to you that the Department has no issue with schools making arrangements with local communities, provided that doesn't in any way impinge upon the needs of the school at any given time. And therefore it's important that, I suppose, negotiations around that are at a local level, and with, as I've already outlined, with the property owners or trustees or whatever the case might be. I think, to be fair and to the credit of schools across the country, we can see that it happens in an extraordinarily high level of schools who are willing to do that and have engaged positively and proactively with local communities to ensure that there is a sharing of the resource that might be in the ownership of the school. And as I said, very specific guidelines are available also to schools who in future might wish to consider doing that.
Thank you, Minister.
Just to conclude, look, Minister, I understand the concerns that school management may have surrounding security, insurance, risk of damage to property and all those issues that are discussed in that document you referenced. But I'm talking here about schools where there are state-of-the-art astroturfs, swimming pools, tennis courts, sports halls, meeting rooms, libraries, gyms, and so on. And I believe all those facilities should be made available. And I think, the department should be opening up schools. Many of these buildings are on public land, most are publicly funded, and they should all be open and available for community use. I would ask that you and your department would devise a policy or scrutinise the possibility of opening up schools to the public, and in all new builds in particular be fully conscious and aware of the potential to have community accessibility built into our forward planning. Minister, people should have access to schools after hours for community meetings, avail of the books sitting in school libraries' shelves, accessing IT equipment and using all our sports facilities. Thank you.
To conclude.
Thank you, and to acknowledge that we're not too far apart in what you were saying. I want to acknowledge the department has no issue here. The department has, as we've previously outlined, made guidelines available as to how best practice would be in terms of ensuring how this would operate. I do want to say very clearly, as I've already said, because I don't want the impression to go abroad that this is not happening with school communities. I'm personally aware of an enormous number of schools on the ground who are making their facilities available for a variety of different functions, gatherings or meetings, or whatever the initiative that might be required within a local community. And again, I'll reiterate, I think that's very positive. But I will say, as you have pointed to too, there are considerations from a school's point of view. But obviously, we would want to build and nurture links with communities, and many schools have already achieved that, and we welcome others in the broader picture taking on board what needs to be taken on board, who would wish to do that. Do so.